Yeah, well, I mean, an opportunistic deal, really, because it looked for all the world at the weekend that he was going to go to Juventus. He spent the second half of last season on loan there from Paris Saint-Germain, did well, and I think he wanted to go there as well. But that deal collapsed, and Spurs sensed an opportunity, and they moved very, very quickly. We know that Spurs have held an interest in him before. He was linked with United, wasn't he, as well, at one stage in January, I think. I don't know how. Yeah. But Spurs were certainly looking at him in January last season, but couldn't get a deal over the line. So I think that's a little bit of a coup that for Spurs, because it's a loan deal with no option or obligation. And remember that PSG paid 90 million euros to Eintracht Frankfurt for Kolo Muani just a couple of years ago. So, clearly a lot of clubs think there's a really big talent in there, and he has scored goals where he's been. He needs to stay fit and have a run in the team, but you can see him being a really powerful option for Thomas Frank, who, let's be honest, Spurs have had a bit of a mess of a window until the last week or so. Getting Simons and Kolo Muani feels like they've saved it a little bit. Well, it's just a little bit of breaking news regarding Raheem Sterling, who of course moved from Chelsea to Arsenal on loan on deadline day last year. My information is that he's not going to move anywhere this summer, and that is something of a surprise, because obviously Sterling's availability has been widely known all summer. He had stated a preference to remain in London, and Fulham were interested in him at one stage, but from what I'm told, there's been no sort of formal proposal made to Sterling, and Chelsea have kind of dropped the ball a little bit on this one, and left Sterling in a position where he's not been given a viable option to leave the club and sort of revive his career elsewhere. So he's still got 2 years remaining on his current contract. From what I'm told, he's going to remain at Chelsea, will continue to train. He's going to have to do so away from the first team. He's part of the sort of infamous bomb squad that's not part of the first team group, so he's going to be training on his own for a while. And his future is very much up in the air. And of course, he's being paid a huge amount of money. He's on north of £300,000 a week. As I say, he's got 2 years left on that deal, and it's a real fall from grace for a player who obviously was a central component for England and a major Premier League player for such a long time.
Just on that, though, is there any chance that Chelsea try and cut the losses and pay up his contract? Obviously, if he was to become a free agent, that would open up a different kind of window for him to move. Is there any chance at all, do you think, that Chelsea just say, look, we're going to settle this contract and you can go off on your own?
I mean, yes, it's a possibility. Chelsea have had to walk something of a financial tightrope this summer because of the UEFA punishment, although that they've had to record a net positive transfer spend relating to the players who were registered for last season's Conference League. And obviously Sterling wasn't in that group. So they have a bit more flexibility because that won't count in UEFA's accountancy for that squad in this season. So yeah, they could do it. And again, it's probably going to come down to how much Raheem Sterling wants to go and play somewhere else, if he's prepared to sacrifice that kind of money. But I think he's made his position very clear. He signed a 5-year deal, what he thought was in good faith. He's not agitated to leave. He's not refused to train. He's not done anything sort of to try and force a move. He's just simply said he would prefer to stay in London if possible. Find me a club and I'll move there. That's probably what happened 12 months ago with Arsenal, and now we're in a position where he wants to do that again, and he hasn't been given the opportunity.
Let's just address Vissa first, because I think Newcastle, I spoke to Newcastle maybe midday today. They were pretty hopeful of getting that done. Wissa was in Newcastle having a medical, fee agreed, everything agreed, so I'd be very, very surprised if that doesn't happen. Aston Villa, obviously you're right in terms of Marco Sancho signed a permanent deal with Fenerbahce from PSG, so he's not going back to Villa. I'll chat to the lads, but Villa have had a strange day. I mean, if you're an Aston Villa fan, look, you might be relieved that Emi Martinez is staying. Maybe not, because obviously it was quite clear he wanted to leave. But today they brought in Harvey Elliott from Liverpool. Good deal. I think Elliott's a good player. But Jadon Sancho from Man United on loan, and Victor Lindelöf. Now, Victor Lindelöf was released by Man United at the end of last season. He's had 8 years at Man United being the fourth choice centre-half. Not a very good defender. He was out of contract. Could have gone to Bayer Leverkusen. Could have gone to Fiorentina. The day of the deadline, he's decided to go to Aston Villa because I think he wants to stay in the northwest of England. But if you're a Villa fan, Rob, you'd not be too excited about those two.
No, I mean, the Lindelöf one is slightly odd because you just said that he's been a free agent all summer. So if you're desperate to sign him, you do it on July the 1st. Yeah. You don't sign him on deadline day. So I'm sure Villa fans are looking at that and thinking, was he really our first choice? Probably not. I mean, he's got Premier League experience. He did okay as a squad player at United, but not fantastic. Villa ultimately have got ambitions of qualifying for the Champions League and doing well in Europe this year. Is he the kind of player that takes you to a different level? Probably not. The Sancho one, if that works, that is a great deal, because if you look at what he did at Chelsea, it wasn't. I mean, James will be able to tell you more about that, but it wasn't fantastic. But at Borussia Dortmund, he was great in that little loan spell he had towards the back end of was it 23-24 season? Obviously helped Borussia Dortmund get to a Champions League final. Now, if you can get the best out of Sancho, who's 25, he has got all the talent in the world. There are obviously questions about some of the stuff that goes with that. But if you're Unai Emery, you may be looking at Jadon Sancho and thinking, well, if we can unlock that, he is the kind of player that can kind of help you get to that next level. Now, I'm not suggesting that it's a foregone conclusion that they will get it out of him, but if they can, it could be quite an exciting signing.